Alright, so this is my response to remote ID, and I kind of agree with this right here.
Get a combination of these two extremes and maybe meet in the middle somewhere with a bot jet. Yes.
But he's being silly about it, so they already have something out, like remote ID. Well, let me just say, they have the chips out and everything, but it's not an ID, it's remote tracking is what it is. When you can look on the app and you can see somebody where they're flying from, that's a tracker. That's not an ID. So in order for remote ID to work like an ID, that means you install the module, and when somebody wants to see your ID, that's when you would turn it on with a switch, just like you would a beeper. So to me, that's how remote ID is going to work. If I install the chip and you want to see my ID, I can turn on the ID for you to see, and I'll transmit my ID. But just for anybody, I'm not transmitting just for anybody to come and harass me. But I have a better idea, and DJI has already came out with it. This is the better idea. It's called AirSense. If you're really wanting to keep the airspace safe for other aircrafts, then we need a chip that shows us when manned aircraft is approaching in our OSD. Another safe thing is a telemetry. The rules need to be changed to where line of sight is not safer than watching your remote with telemetry on a screen with altitude and speed and distance and home point and with a GPS map. Line of sight can't do that. But people with goggles and flying drones with goggles can do that. They can see a whole lot easier inside the pilot's view, as if you were a pilot controlling an aircraft. You can see everything going on in your instrument panel, just like this is showing right here. This is what you see in the goggles. You have even more information than this that you can put in the goggles. So what FAA should push to make things safe is people wearing goggles, people using camera drones and transmitting telemetry, live telemetry, to what's going on to the pilot. And then if you want to take another step to make it safe for other pilots around, you have stuff like AirSense that says manned aircraft approaching, or aircraft intercepting in your area. It also shows the aircraft on the GPS map relative to where you are. That is common sense to make things more safer for other people flying. Putting an ID chip on a drone is not doing anything near that. So if an ID works like an ID, not everybody in the damn neighborhood knows my name and where I live and my address and and everything about me. There's people that work in top secret facilities that don't need their information out there. There's people that have jobs that are critical to where you don't need your information out there. And only people that need to see your ID is people that think you're committing a crime or doing something wrong. So the only time I ever show my ID to a law enforcement person is if I've done something wrong, or if they have asked for it because they are suspected I'm doing something wrong. So this is not remote ID. This is remote tracking. If I can get on an app and look at who's flying in the area, that's just like saying I can get on an app and look who's driving in the area. Oh, this guy's got an 18-wheeler and he's on a road that he's not supposed to be driving an 18-wheeler on. That information is not given to me on an app. I don't know this guy that's driving an 18-wheeler down a road. I don't know his name. I don't know all that stuff. And or that he is driving an 18-wheeler. That's not for me to, that's invasion of privacy, is to know everything that's going on at one time and who they are and where they're at. It's invasion of privacy. So an ID should work like an ID. If somebody wants to see your information, they should ask for it, and then that should be broadcast. So that's how I'm going to handle it. Let's play devil's advocate. Say there's people with simulators in there, and there's people viewing in goggles other people flying. What stops people from flying away to another location and saying, I don't have a drone? I could land my drone on a shed somewhere and just tell you, I was watching somebody else fly. I don't have a drone. Oh, you got a remote in your hand. Well, I was acting like I was playing with their drone. I'm kind of practicing. I'm new to this. So, I don't think remote ID is a smart way to go about this. If you're wanting people to stay safe in the air, I think remote ID is a smart way to go about this if you're wanting people to be harassed. So, you want a better solution? This is a better solution right here. What you're seeing on the screen. I can see GPS location of where the aircraft is. I've got a heads up warning saying aircraft is approaching. That tells me, hey, you need to get out of the air, or you need to get low, which I'm low all the time anyways. I fly at the park. I fly below trees, and if there's aircraft below trees, we've got a problem. We got a major problem. And I think that's another thing. It should be a common sense rule. You shouldn't have to have ID if you're below the tree line. If you're flying out of line of sight, I would agree. You might want to know who this person is and what they're doing, because they could be held liable for damages, which you don't hear much of that at all. I would argue that heads-up display and cameras that give you telemetry, miles per hour, your distance, your altitude, your location, all that is more important than somebody looking at your ID. That's I think that needs to be pushed. But the way the rules are now is I can go outside and fly a drone as long as I can see it. And it's better than me flying in goggles. It's better than me flying in a camera with all that information. It's better than me being a pilot inside my drone, basically. Because I can see with my own eyes, unassisted, the drone. That makes no sense at all. There's a lot of people out there that can hardly see past past 10 feet. You know, you got older people out here. They can only see if it's right up on them. So I mean, you're assisting your eyes to see with glasses. So what is unassisted? I mean, you're making it impossible for people to fly. Is what you're trying to do. Is what I feel like you're trying to do. What the FAA is trying to do is trying to make it impossible for people to fly. When there are things already out to make it safe, to make it a whole lot more safe. And why are we not pushing that? That's my question to the FAA. Why are we not pushing the things that already make it safe as a requirement? People enjoy using heads-up display. People enjoy using cameras on their drones that feed information. I would hate to be around somebody that's flying line of sight, because there's, you know, it's just one wrong move and then they can do some damage or hit something, you know, if it's a big enough drone. But if they I don't know if FAA is flown many drones, but you should get one out and fly it with your goggles on and see what it's like. It's like being a pilot of an airplane. It's like being a pilot of a helicopter. You have situational awareness and full control, and you have hand-eye coordination a whole lot better than line of sight. Because you could take those goggles off, and I bet you anything that you cannot do the same thing that you're doing in line of sight unless you're really skilled. You don't have to be that skilled to fly in a set of goggles, but you got to be really skilled to fly line of sight. And that's what we should be pushing, is cameras on the front of the drone to put out telemetry. That should be required if you're going, you know, 50 feet away from the user. That should be required. And yeah, I can understand somebody being a spotter and watching for you. I watch for my friends all the time. I can understand that. You need a spotter. That's a smart thing to have a spotter to watch out for you. But what's even smarter than remote ID is AirSense. DJI has it out. Get a DJI FPV drone where an aircraft is, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see this screen, what you're looking at right now. Alright guys, that's my opinion on remote ID. I'm not saying don't comply, but I'm saying treat it like an ID. If it's going to be an ID, treat it like an ID. If it's going to be a tracker, then you need to say it's a remote tracker, because your wording is wrong when you say it's a remote ID. Because remote ID means I can pull the ID out of my pocket and show you, or choose not to show you, and have my privacy and rights. When you are broadcasting all the time, you don't have your privacy, you don't have your rights. You're basically being tracked. Alright, that's my opinion. This is not fact. These are just opinions. You know, anything that you see or hear from me, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, this is my idea, and I think what should be done, and I think FAA would be backed up on these ideas a whole lot more than broadcasting a tracking device for everyone to see. Alright, I'm out.